Here with me is Mark Spafford with Solid Waste Services for the municipality of Anchorage. And we're going to be doing a brief sort of interview. So first question to kick things off, Mark, is to ask you to provide a little bit of information about the organization, your tenure, and a little bit of a brief background, for the audience.
So my name is Mark Spafford. I'm the general manager for the Department of Solid Waste Services here with the municipality of Anchorage. Here at SWS, we have the only landfill, as well as the only transfer stations that serve the entire municipality of Anchorage. And we have about 300,000 residents that we currently provide service for. Another service that we provide for the community is we also collect garbage, recycling, and organics from 20% of the community. And so we've kind of got a cool little thing going where, we get to play in both the disposal and the collection end. And a recent development that we've added to the organization during my tenure here is we also house the sustainability division. So that's the group that, houses the climate action plan. We do the performance monitoring of it, and we do different projects here at SWS, like solar, electric vehicles, battery storage, combined heat and power, to try to show and demonstrate success to the rest of the municipality, as well as the rest of our partners across the state that, help contribute to the climate action plan, to just demonstrate success. So we're kind of like the, also on the leading edge of innovation here at the municipality, which is something that I'm very proud of. A little bit for me, I've been the general manager here for about 5 years. And, there's nothing cooler. I always like to say this, there's nothing cooler than being the king of the trash heap, in the town that you grew up in. Originally, I was from Florida, but, via the military, I ended up growing up here. But of course, like any good kid from Alaska, when you graduate high school, you want to get as far away from here as possible. So I got the opportunity to go back to the University of Central Florida, and I got my bachelor's and master's degrees there in environmental engineering, and then obviously ultimately moved back home because Orlando is just kind of a nice place to visit. No slight against Orlando, but a great place. Had a lot of good times there, but, and I'm a professional engineer, and, I've been doing utilities for, 20 plus years now, which is kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, this is the best job I've ever had. Definitely not boring at all.
Yeah, it could definitely tell, I think, from the response, there's a lot that you're kind of overseeing, and it sounds like it's pretty exciting to think through all the sustainability initiatives and overseeing that, and really benefiting the future of the municipality. So I think that you kind of already answered it to some degree, but what do you like best about your roles and responsibilities with the municipality?
I think first and foremost is, being able to work with the people that I get to work with. I've been able to develop a pretty good staff here that reports directly to me. I think we have a great culture as far as, staff's willingness to try new things. And, I always think that like part of my job, like 70% of my job is, like to manage out. And so I don't like to micromanage my people. And, one thing I like to say is I don't do other people's work. And that's something that people really appreciate. Because, sometimes managers tend to micromanage, which is just not a good thing. I pay these people what I pay them because I expect them to use their brain and do their job. I don't want to do it for them. And so that's really led to a lot of, I think, really satisfaction among my employees. And so I'm really excited about that. But, the other cool thing that I get to do is, not be bored. And that's the one thing I always say to people is, you can do whatever you want to me, please just don't bore me. And certainly coming to work here every day is not boring, because of the people, but also because of the cool projects that, we've gotten to work on, from developing the sustainability division, which again, like I said, is looking at, all the different climate action plan things like, increased waste diversion, electric vehicles, and so we're getting electric vehicles here, which I'm proud to say, and we're going to be, one of the first in subarctic conditions to get, Peterbilt's, who's our, equipment manufacturer for our garbage trucks. We're going to get, two of the first all electric vehicles for them. So like, that's something that I've been working on for, 4 years, and we're really happy to see that coming to fruition. And then not to mention, we've got a $120 million transfer station project, that's been going on for a couple years now that, by middle or early 2023, we'll have a, brand new transfer station, which will help to solidify kind of the solid waste and recycling, scene here in Anchorage for the next 30 or 40 years. And also, we had unfortunately, there was an earthquake in November of 2018. And actually, I'll never forget it because it was right around the time that Mackenzie Milton, who was UCF's quarterback, blew out.
Oh, he got injured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was right around, it was the week after, it was the week before that the earthquake happened. But it destroyed all of our facilities at the landfill. And so also, in addition to the brand new transfer station facilities, we're getting all new facilities from our friends at FEMA for, buildings out at the landfill. And so, and that's just in addition to like a few of the other cool, like we have a leachate evaporator project going on. We're looking at how do we extend the life of the landfill? So like different waste to energy technologies we've been evaluating. And so we've got a lot of really cool, really new, really innovative things as far as solid waste is concerned that makes this a really fun and a really cool job.
Yeah, I think for us, we try to let our consultants, give them a long leash, and we kind of have a saying, it's like you can accomplish a lot with that, but you can also get in trouble. You can hang yourself with your leash a little bit, which is probably a poor saying, but you get the gist of it. So, I think I think there's a lot of exciting things. So I completely see, how you'd be so excited about, working there at the MOA. So you sort of touched on a few things in your response there. We're going to come back to the central transfer station in a second, but outside of sort of these amazing things that are kind of going on, what do you see as the biggest near-term challenges that SWS is facing or maybe facing?
Well, I mean, the obvious one is the pandemic. We've had 6 or 7% decrease in our overall tonnages at the landfill. We thought 2021 was going to be better than 2020. Well, it turns out it probably isn't, just because of how, and I don't want to say it's a slow rollout of the vaccines, but it's just going to take a long time to get the adequate number of people vaccinated so that, the tourism industry, which is a big industry here in the state, as well as the community, Anchorage, Alaska, that definitely had an impact, on our revenues. And, obviously the closing of, commercial businesses and the decrease in tonnages associated with that, obviously, doesn't hurt our financial bottom line. And so we're in like a tenuous, I wouldn't say tenuous, but just, we have to be very thoughtful. And, you mentioned not letting people go out on, give them too much rope to hang themselves. But to throw a plug back at you, Terry, I mean, you guys have been very creative and using abstract thought, which I appreciate from our consultants, because I'm not interested in what the standard response is. We're interested in like, how do we get creative and make what we have and make our vision work, which you guys have really, really helped us to get to as far as financial stuff is concerned. But it's going to be, making sure that we can justify, our continued rate increases that we need to pay for, the new transfer station and the leachate evaporator projects, those large capital projects that are very much needed, that are kind of in the middle of ongoing right now, that we need to make sure that we've got adequate revenue and adequate rate increases, to pay for the debt service and operating, fees that are going to be associated with that. And so that's kind of the biggest near-term thing that I see. I mean, if we're talking about long-term, I always come back to my soapbox is always, the life of the landfill. And
Right.
We're limited here in that we don't have any other space. So once the landfill here is filled, even though it's 40 years away, that'll be here before we know it, and we want to start preparing for that now, because that's my job, is I'm supposed to be preparing this place for the future. And so that's kind of the short term, and then the long term concern.
Excellent, excellent. So you kind of mentioned, we talked about the new transfer station. Can you just describe briefly sort of the drivers for the project and how this is going to change or improve the MOA's operation, or maybe the delivery of service?
Yeah, so we were the existing transfer station facility, which I want to note is literally, the new transfer station is going to be right across the street from the existing facility. So we just kind of lucked out with the property that was available, because there's not a lot of commercial property or industrial property available in Anchorage. But basically, people will be able to turn left one day to go to the existing facility, and then when the new ones opens up, they'll just have to turn right. So we got kind of lucky from that respect. But the driver is that we frankly, the site was never designed as a transfer station in the first place. It was a shredder facility, and just in the mid 80s, it was kind of converted over to a transfer station. So it was never really designed as a transfer station in the first place. It was sized, just for solid waste handling and for about half the population that we have now. And so nobody thought of things like, well, how do we do recycling? How do we do different, types of diversion like that? Because nobody was thinking about, recycling in the mid 80s here in Alaska anyway. Also, our building, our admin and warm storage building, is falling apart. And so I always like to say, we're garbage people and we do that well. We're not necessarily facility maintenance personnel. And so there was a lot of deferred maintenance that's associated with that building. We also had safety concerns because of the layout of the transfer station, not to mention, long wait lines during the summer, because people like to clean out their yards on the weekends here. And, during any kind of Saturday and a Monday when we open back up after being closed on Sunday, people can expect to have, an hour wait. So with the new facilities, what we're going to be able to do is increase the capacity of the tipping floor. We're going to basically double it, because we're also not only thinking about 2021 and 2025, we're also thinking of, well, what's going to happen in 2030, 2040. We could potentially be getting more waste, so we're sizing ourselves for that. And we're also setting up our facilities to make sure that we've got adequate space on the existing campus, because we're not going to just bowl over all the buildings there. What we're going to do is convert that existing site into basically the new Anchorage Recycling Center. And so now we'll be able to co-locate all of the recycling and solid waste services in one area, instead of people having to go to two different spots to, do, I want to recycle organics here, I want to recycle my cans and, glass bottles here, or I got to throw away my garbage. Now they'll be able to do it all in one same place. And so that's kind of, those are some of the high points from, the new transfer station and why it was justified.
Yeah, so clearly, there were a lot of really great reasons to do that. And so you're communicating that to not only internally to administration, but elected officials and the public, to sort of garner support. And these things aren't free. Services like these do cost money. And so I know that, there was going to be a need to present, some rate adjustments to sort of facilitate this project. And can you just step through some of the challenges you maybe encountered, or maybe lessons learned through the presentation of those rate needs and where you find yourself today?
I expected it. I didn't expect it to go as well as it did. And frankly, I attribute, even during the middle of a pandemic and, us asking for, 6.25% increases in disposal and 5% increases in collections, we've done a good job of saying that this is what our rate increases are going to be for the last, 3 years now, and we've stuck to it. And so, and that's kind of what makes it a creative, difficult process for, like people like you, Terry, and my poor finance manager, Heidi, is that I'm torturing you guys by saying, like, we have to stay within the rate increases, that we've told the assembly that we have to stay within to pay for these new facilities. And so you guys have done an excellent job of making sure that we've maintained that. So basically, it's been being consistent with our message, doing a good job, keeping the trust of those assembly members, and just keep plowing forward. And again, we've been lucky with respect to the fact that we have the support that we do of the administration and the assembly, and so that certainly doesn't hurt. But also, again, like I said, just my folks and our consultants, just doing a great job and being a good part of our team and everybody working together to make those things happen. Now, who knows what's going to happen here in 6 months, because there's going to be a new mayor and there'll be new assembly members, and who knows what's going to happen with the economy. But I'm confident that we'll weather that storm too, and we'll keep plugging along. And a lot of it has to do with we didn't raise rates for a long time, and so in addition to having to pay for and get ready to pay for the debt service and the big projects that we need to have from a regulatory standpoint, is that we have to make up for all those years that we didn't even adjust for inflation.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of in that mode, and again, like I said, we've done a good job of presenting that story to everybody, and so I think they have a good understanding of what and why we need what it is that we're doing and requesting.
Yeah, I think that the public probably doesn't understand sort of the management that you sort of encourage people to think creatively, for you to be able to stay in line with that original plan, even though you face more challenges. So I think that's a testament to you and your staff, and so kudos there. So this is the last question I have for you, and I think this one's kind of a cool one, and I was going to share my screen here, but you mentioned the sustainability. You're looking at a lot of things. You mentioned the CTS and the ability to kind of centralize the operations, enhance level of service, and even start to offer more services maybe through there with recycling and organics and all this fantastic stuff. Can you touch on some of the options that you're sort of exploring to help achieve, I guess, that goal of sustainability and the economic benefits? And I just want to, I'm going to share my screen for a second, which that way everybody can see. This is your website, and you've got this really cool landfill closure countdown clock that helps sort of communicate the issue you mentioned earlier to the public. And if we kind of zoom in, I thought it had this really cool interactive feature whereby if we do recycling, you can see it added some time. If we do more a mandatory policy for curbside recycling, we add a lot more time. If we add on top of that organics, now we're really making some ways. And throw in there a reduction in a landfill or diversion from kind of waste to energy, we go a really long time out. And zero waste, we don't need to worry about it. So I just think that's a fantastic sort of demonstration for the public to sort of understand very complex issues. So yeah, if you could just talk a little bit about that, in your own terms, I think everybody would be really interested to hear from you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. That's my favorite thing here at the department, is the doomsday clock, what I like to call it. And I don't think anybody else has one at all. I haven't seen anybody like that. But that's like, when I first got to this position, that's what the main thing was. That's like the biggest commodity that we have, is that airspace at that landfill. And we're lucky in Alaska, especially going on the conference circuit and talking to my peers and interacting with them. A lot of them don't have the abundance of landfill space that we have, and they're at the mercy of the other Waste Management Republic, of what they're going to get charged, and they have a lot of logistics and economic issues associated with that. And so we're lucky in that fact. And so seeing that it's our biggest commodity, what drives me is like everything that we do should be directed towards, does it make sense, and is it extending the life of the landfill? And that's kind of like my mantra here, and what I've not beaten into, but gotten in the heads of all the people that work for me, is that's how we need to be thinking. So some of the things that we're looking at doing to achieve that goal is, obviously, with the new transfer station, we're going to be able to double down on recycling. And so we're going to be able to, instead of having to dump, all the yard waste, organics, moving trucks that come in with large amounts of cardboard, instead of just telling them, well, all we can do is just dump it right here on the tipping floor, we'll be able to tell them, nope, you can go drive across the street, go dump it over there, and we'll be able to segregate out that material instead of just dumping it in with the rest of the garbage. And so kind of something that, in my mind, with the ultimate recycling program is doing something like waste to energy. And when I say waste to energy, like, we have an existing landfill gas project where we collect, our gas, and we sell it to a utility provider. But I'm more referencing like a mass burn type plant that would produce energy on the back end and reduce, the volume of waste by, 85 to 90%. And so that's one thing that we've been very interested in, because we've got a common problem with our partners at the Anchorage Water and Wastewater Utility, specifically related to PFAS, which I'm sure, you guys, that's kind of like the buzz thing right now. But
Yeah.
the landfill has PFAS and it's leachate. The leachate goes to the wastewater collection system. The wastewater treatment plant, gets additional PFAS from whatever other industrial sources they have. They treat their sludge. The sludge comes back to us with high amounts of PFAS in it, and so it's like this circular, problem that we're never going to get out of it unless we do something to destroy the PFAS. And so the only known technology out there at this point that will, effectively mineralize PFAS is thermal treatment. And so, in addition to, like, the waste to energy plant being able to extend the life of the landfill 140 years, and keep our costs down for disposal here, because again, if we don't have a landfill, we have to start shipping out our garbage at a rate that's 4 to 5 times what it is now, and we're paying. Our rates are pretty cheap compared to our peers in the state as well as the Northwest. So again, that's why the economics of this thing are really, really
Right.
appealing. Besides the fact that it costs like $500 million, which that's the struggle, is going to be trying to find the money to do that, and talk the politicians into that. But what we're thinking about on a grand scale is, like, you'd have a facility that treated, municipal solid waste, and convert it to energy, and 90% less volume that it was. You could then use that energy to treat sludge that AWU was bringing us, and treat it effectively to dry it, as well as to eliminate the PFAS, that's contained in that sludge. And then also looking at using the energy from the mass burn process to do something like treat contaminated soils, because we have a lot of contaminated soils here from, military bases all across the state, that we could potentially treat PFAS containing soil like that, and keep the military from having to spend, $400 or $500 a ton to barge all that stuff out of the state. As well as, economies of scale for a mass burn plant. The more garbage that we can take from the rest of the state, the better. And so it's even, if we can get this facility paid for through grant funding, it drives down the operating costs. We can make it cheaper for people to rail their garbage to us, rather than disposing of it of their own landfill. And we've kind of effectively at that point, solved the landfill problems for the state. And so that's kind of really exciting to think about. And one thing that I forgot to mention when we were talking about the doomsday clock is, because I know Raftelis is big into, benchmarking and key performance indicators. That's not just the doomsday clock isn't just like a fake clock that we just throw some numbers in there. It's actually, through an annuity calculation, it takes into account, our airspace flyovers every year. It takes into account how much garbage we're receiving. It takes into account our different key performance indicators, like, waste to cover ratios at the landfill, how much recycling that we have going on in the community. And it takes all that out and spits out a number that generates like what that time remaining at the landfill is.
Yeah, that is so cool. And for those of our audience that doesn't know this, right near Anchorage is a joint Air Force and Army base. And it's known around the country that if you're near a military installment, that it has higher PFAS. So I guess with that, I just want to say thank you so much, Mark. Those are all the questions, but appreciate your insight and look forward to working with the municipality of Anchorage and you all in the future. And I know that our audience is going to learn a lot from this interview. So thank you again.
Yep, no problem. My pleasure. Always good talking with you, Terry.